Social Sciences and Global Studies is a very research-active school. We organise our research in several ways. By discipline, as in the case of philosophy and religious studies, through collaboratives, such as Open Space, IKD, which is Innovation, Knowledge and Development, and Inogen, which is a joint research centre with the University of Edinburgh. We also house two of the university's strategic research areas, one in international development and inclusive innovation, the other in citizenship and governance. By participating in research, colleagues are taking part in conferences, in workshops. They would be invited to give seminars at universities within the UK and internationally. They would at times be reporting on research funded by major research councils such as the ESRC or the AHRC. And it's more than simply participating, it's through that participation in research that they're able to anticipate where debates are heading in their respective disciplines, and they would be using that knowledge to inform curriculum development. I think students benefit from research, and research benefits the student experience overall for at least three reasons. Firstly, it means that students are being taught by internationally and nationally respected researchers, people who are at the forefront of the development of knowledge. Secondly, that research excellence informs our teaching materials that are picked up and used by universities nationally and internationally. And I think it's worth adding that through the way in which we organise the production of our teaching materials and their presentation, students are being taught by those key researchers, something that you might not find at other universities. Thirdly, in that active blending of research and teaching, students quickly appreciate that knowledge isn't fixed, that it's an ongoing process. It's constantly changing, and the research skills of thinking and questioning are key to making our curriculum cutting edge and relevant. Taken all together, I guess that's what you'd expect from a university education. It's part of what makes higher education, well, higher. But I think it's worth adding that at the OU, that continual push for excellence is done without being elitist.
My area of research is personal finance, and there are two strands to that. The first is the relationship between individual financial capability and the wider economic, social and political context. And the second strand is the role of consumers in retail financial markets. So in particular, how consumers can have power in those markets, and also the extent to which they can reasonably be expected to drive competition. I'm involved in the production of curriculum around personal finance and economics, and I think my research feeds into that in two ways. The first is very direct, in that the content of my research can influence the content of what we're actually teaching in the modules. But there is a second way, which I think is even more important, and that's because during my research I'm working with, for example, regulators and providers, and I'm getting a breadth and depth of insight into those industries that I couldn't possibly get in any other way. And that really helps to make our curriculum both salient, up-to-date, and at the cutting edge of developments.
The focus of my research is on the geography of power. What I mean by that is the difference that space, place, distance makes to the way that power is actually exercised. So that when someone says the government reaches into your lives, then intuitively you know that, you kind of nod, but you don't quite know how that works. Now, a more concrete example would be taking social movements, NGOs, non-governmental organisations, around sweatshops, the Clean Clothes campaign. They will actually try to persuade or seduce consumers into supporting workers on the other side of the globe, in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. Now, for good reason, because the conditions are terrible. But if you ask those same consumers where Bangladesh is on a map, they could probably identify, but Dhaka, I suspect not. But they still may have compassion. But at the same time, there's East European workers just up the road from London supplying iceberg lettuce for Tesco, migrant labour, which, unless the NGOs point to them, no one thinks about them. If you're an active researcher, you're placing yourself at the forefront of your discipline. If you're at the forefront, you're aware of all the new ideas in your discipline. Now that feeds into teaching. It keeps teaching fresh. But perhaps more than that, it actually helps to shape the area you're teaching rather than simply reflect other people's ideas.